Greetings and welcome, brave citizens of our new world. I'm Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terawatt. This is our layer 3.0, and today is the last day of V.E.D.A. Day 30, 2018. We are wrapping it up, and I am joined today by Michelle Flanagan, who is a cosplayer and makeup artist and photographer in the community.
What's up? Zombie Cat 89 here.
So today we're going to be talking about two things. One, with regards to, at the beginning of the month, I started sort of on a path to get more healthy this time, as opposed to what I normally did with V.E.D.A, which was a steady decline of my health in general. This year I wanted to try to start, because I was in a bad place when we got started, I wanted to try to bring it up and see how much improvement we could make. So, for your consideration and general horror, depending who you are, we have this. And as you can see, 3 days at the gym for about 3.5 weeks, not a huge change. But I am definitely feeling better, like I've got a lot more energy on the day-to-day. I've made a lot of adjustments with regards to my diet, so I'm starting to eat a lot more vegetables, try to eat less junk, and the activities certainly helped because, like, I'm finding I'm out of breath less. I've got just more energy in general to get through the day, and it's been a good experience, we'll say. So there is that. I'm thinking that if I keep going, if I try to bump it up to 5 days a week, so like a solid Monday to Friday, and then do that for another 2 months, maybe there'll be more of a change, and if you're interested in seeing more progress on that, let me know. But then, today, we are going to be talking about Avengers Infinity War. We're gonna be, so spoilers warning here. Big ol' warning for spoilers. If you have not yet gone out to see this movie,
you need to go see this movie.
You need to go see this, but we are going to be talking for a large portion of this.
Yes.
There is going to be a large spoilers thing, so just a quick heads up.
So okay. Yeah, Infinity Wars. How long have you been waiting for Infinity Wars? I know ever since I saw the first Avengers, I was always looking forward to the next movie that would make me feel like a little kid again. Because definitely in the theater, I had that same rush of when characters were showing up where I was like, yeah, Thor! And, the Guardians! And I remember way back when we first saw Avengers, it was like that when, when Iron Man first hits the scene, when Thor first hits the scene, when you first see Hulk transform. I kind of had that similar reaction from the first time. Yeah, and it's such a difficult film to talk about because every moment in the film was this big thing that was happening. There's
that you
no
can't
such
talk
thing
about.
as discussion of this movie without spoilers.
Yeah,
so it's very hard.
It's every scene was just a thing. I was like, I can't even talk about the after credits scene because he drops the thing and then there's Captain Marvel's symbol on the pager, and I was like, shit! Like, I can't...
I mean, so we know Captain Marvel is coming soon, and I think the way they've tied it in is actually really smart, because going into the movie, I was like, hey, how are they going to fit everything in? Yeah. And, like, the idea of, oh, maybe he only gets halfway to destroying the world. He only gets half the Infinity Stones. But this movie, he gets all 5.
Yeah.
6, yes, he gets all 6.
Yeah.
He gets all of them. Fills the gauntlet, and then actually wins.
Yeah.
He wins.
Full on, absolutely.
He just completes his task, and and at the end of the movie, they just show him sit down, like, I'm done. Yeah.
And a lot of people, myself sort of on the 50-50 with this, but there was a lot of people that were like, that would be a good place just to end it. That there is no second Infinity War movie, that's just what happens. And then the rest of the Marvel Universe just continues now without any of those characters.
Yeah, and because now we see that Thanos doesn't have the gauntlet anymore. It's gone.
Well, he didn't have it when he was in the... because he snaps his fingers and then he's in that place where he's talking to what I thought was the soul of... Gamora, because he had to sacrifice her to get the Soul Stone, and...
But maybe the Soul Stone's only active when it has a soul in it.
Perhaps, yeah, because it was like you have to train a soul to get a soul.
Well, you see how, like, in Guardians of the Galaxy with the Power Stone, all of the Guardians had to hold hands in order to harness the power. So the Soul Stone must work that the person who wants to wield it must have something super deep and close to their heart that allows them access to the power that's there. Yeah. And I do think Gamora's reaction of being, oh, like, I don't know. Like, come on, girl. Come on, girl.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you're there and it's like sacrifice someone you love and you turn around and you see that look on his face, you should run. Like,
yeah. You probably know that's
it's you. It's you.
You're gonna have a problem. Because here's the thing. A lot of people were like, do you think that perhaps that's Death that he's talking to and it's just taken on the form of Gamora? My argument to that is if they wanted to have Death, then they wouldn't have had Red Skull in Death's place when he went to the planet to get the Soul Stone. Typically in the story, that's Death that he's talking to when he shows up at that temple in the comics.
Now, for me, I haven't actually read the Infinity War comics. It was one of the ones I actually haven't got a chance to complete.
I haven't read them myself, but I get bits and pieces.
And I definitely am one of those people that has seen all the movies, but is the biggest Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
I know everything about Spider-Man. I've read, that's the comics I've read, and instead of branching out to all the things, I really just love Spider-Man. And again, like, this movie does a really great job of getting all the heroes in and giving them a place in the plot without relying too much on the storytelling, because we know the characters. Like, we know who Gamora is, we know who Thanos is, we know who, you know, everybody. We know everybody's backstory, we know everyone's got characters they relate to, characters they care about, so we can really focus on get this plot going. We don't need sidetracked or conversations.
Yeah.
Like, we know.
It's 100% not a movie that is a standalone film.
Oh, definitely
because, like, they really very much, when you go to see this, they expect that you've seen the movies Iron Man up to Black Panther.
You know who's in Wakanda, you know who's part of the Avengers from Civil War, you know what's happened with Captain America, you know that, you know where everyone has left off.
Yeah. And it's like, there's a handful of movies you could have missed, but there are a lot that are, like, the Iron Man series, Civil War, Black Panther, like, the Doctor Strange, Thor Ragnarok. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's involved in there that immediately picks up. Like, this movie immediately picks up at the end of Thor Ragnarok. So,
yeah, it's almost like it just transitions fluidly.
Like, right into it.
Because it would be, technically, if we think about the continuity of all the movies, Thor Ragnarok would technically be the last movie, and Black Panther would be, you know, at a different point in the timeline.
Yeah.
Because it goes Thor Ragnarok, Infinity Wars.
Yeah. It just immediately picks up. I thought that it was, well, I mean, some of my favorite parts of this movie is, the banter between Tony Stark and Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Because the both of them are extremely, like, ego-driven, arrogant, intelligent, powerful men.
You know, we have a doctor who believes he's like the smartest person in the world, and we have a mechanic who thinks he's the smartest person in the world, and that alone is, you know, a mechanic can't do a doctor's job, and a doctor can't do a mechanic's job.
Yeah.
But they're both really high and mighty over who's better.
And they make a lot of really solid points at each other, and I think that it was really interesting that when they do that, they actually, on some levels, concede. Mm-hmm. That they're just like, okay, what are you doing? Okay, well, I think this is the best point of action, in which case then Doctor Strange is like, that is a good idea, let's do that. And then Doctor Strange also does a thing, and it's just like, you know, I've seen 14 million versions of how this could play out, and there's one that we could win, and Tony's just like, okay, so let's go with your plan. Like, what is it? Let's go.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is because one of the complaints I see is just like, well, why did Doctor Strange just give him the Time Stone? He said that, I'm not going to give up the Time Stone no matter what. Like, it goes the Time Stone, Tony, then Spider-Man. Like, it comes first. I'm going to leave you to the dust. But then he just gives it up. But at the same time, you have to think about, I was thinking about, in the Doctor Strange movie, when they reached the end of the timeline of his sensei, of his mentor, what was her name?
The Ancient One.
The Ancient One. And she says that, I cannot see beyond this point. This is where my story ends, and I can't see any futures beyond this.
Yeah.
Now, if Doctor Strange truly this is the end of his story, if he sees the one path that leads to victory against Thanos before the end of his story, and it involves Tony Stark, that would be the reason why he would give up the Time Stone, because he knows in the story, in the timeline that involves them winning against Thanos for the end game, Tony's got to survive.
Tony has to survive. So it's in one of the timelines where they fight Thanos, and they give up the time stone, and he succeeds in using it, something happens
says
that
at the end,
involves
this
Tony.
is when we played the end game. We're in the long game now.
Yeah, welcome to the end game.
Yeah.
And he's just like, this is the only way. This is the only way that it'll work, and then he just dies.
Yeah.
And then he disappears and Parker disappears, and they're
oh
left
god, that wrecked me.
Oh yeah, that
wrecked me.
Destroyed me.
And they butter you up first because they show Groot, and already you're like, huh. And then they show Spider-Man, and they give a nice long scene to it, and it made me think about the Homecoming when he goes in for a hug for Tony, and Tony's like, we're not there yet. Yeah. And he hugs him here, and Tony goes for him, and it's like, oh god.
And here's the thing, like,
Tony sees him like a son.
Yeah, Tony Stark is my favorite character of the series because he's Iron Man, and I have a lot of like parallels that I draw to the character. But his is also the longest and most complicated of any of the other characters' stories in the Avengers universe because his was the first movie. He's got more movies to his name than any of the other characters.
He's got more screen time.
Not only just that, he's been in the front of every one of the Avengers movies. Like, in the first Avengers movie, he was on the front line. In Ultron, he was definitely on the front line because it was, like, largely the villain was his causing. And that
he's
now
there during Spider-Man's story arc,
just...
too, because he brings Spider-Man up. So he's got a lot of screen time in that.
And you can see, like, the unaddressed PTSD and the constant struggle to save people that he's dealing with, that, like, and he talks about it, he's just like, I'm standing here shoulder to shoulder with super soldiers and gods and other people, I'm a man in a can. I'm just a guy with a bunch of crazy inventions, and that's the best I've got, are the tools I can make.
This is why I love his relationship with Spider-Man so much, because Peter sees somebody who's also human, who is on a same wavelength of intelligence, because the reason why Spider-Man wins against the Vulture in his movie is that because Peter Parker is smarter than the Vulture. He wins because of his intelligence of when to bail out. Things are too dangerous. Things are going to blow up. And being smarter. And Iron Man is the best mentor for him. To bring Spider-Man up. To give him the equipment. So not only is his heightened sense of powers and strength, but he's also got the intelligence of humankind as well.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things. I just also absolutely love the fact that Spider-Man is just crazy strong, because he's not just really intelligent. He's Spider-Man.
Crazy strong.
Like, so he's crazy friggin' strong and has all those senses and everything.
Through the roof.
So, like, while they were fighting in New York at the very beginning, and, like, the one guy with the hammer and he just grabs it with his one hand, and he kind of, like, leans out, like, hey, everybody, and then he's helping out because he's just some plucky kid with superpowers who's just a really nice guy. Like,
oh, he's such a nice guy.
I love, oh god, and he called that dude Squidward, and I fucking died. And I feel like that would absolutely be my reaction.
The comedy in this
like,
movie is so well placed.
We're here to destroy your planet. And he's like, no, Earth's closed. No, go away. And I was like, yeah, and there's jokes, and the jokes are so good, but they're spread out between this like extreme heavy tone of the film. They still managed to fit in a couple of jokes. And
some of the best ones are definitely with Thor, with the Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, when he just keeps calling him Rabbit.
Oh, yeah, I call it. Yep. Those two together is really fun.
And then he gives him an eye. And it's a different color from his other eye, which I thought was, like, so perfect.
And then you wonder where Rocket got that eye.
Well, he fucking stole it from a guy and then hit it up his butt to, like, get off of the thing. And you probably want to watch that first. He just sticks it in his face. But also, actually, another one of my favorite things about this, and I know that a lot of people might not necessarily agree, but I adore Peter Dinklage as an actor.
Oh my god.
And when it's like this giant dwarf comes running out and knocks him over, and I was like, it's one of the dwarves. And they're huge. That's so cool that the dwarves are fucking huge.
Yeah.
But he's sitting there and his hair's covering his face, and I just catch, like, the bit of his nose, and I will go, is that Peter fucking Dinklage?
That's exactly my reaction there.
And then he looks up, and I was like, yes!
It's Peter fucking Dinklage.
Oh my god, this is the best.
It's just scaling him, scaling him up.
And I was like, how fun is that? He's a dwarf and he's huge.
It's such a simple concept, but fuck, I love this. This is so great.
So good.
Again, that made me giggle, and for how severe this movie, because this movie gets dark.
Oh, it gets super dark.
This movie gets dark with some like some brutal murders, some torture scenes, and like genocide.
Just flat out.
Just flat out genocide. So when the jokes come in, they are very refreshing, and it's unlike any of the other superhero movies that have come out from Marvel, because they get the dark tone, but it's still Marvel, and I love seeing that they finally lose one. And it's just like, that's why I love Civil War so much, is that technically they lost.
Everybody lost.
Everybody lost that one.
Nobody won at the end of Civil War, and no one's supposed to win at the end of Civil War. It's just,
it brings out the greatest flaw of humans.
Yeah, and I think that's so fascinating.
They're emotional.
That with their choices to go with Thanos, because a lot of people were like, but Thanos' drive to getting the Infinity Gauntlet and destroying most of the universe was so that the personification of death in their universe will marry him. And I was like, well, that's stupid. As far as I'm concerned, I've always thought that that was one of the worst writing decisions ever, but it was comic books and things are wacky and people get away with all kinds of stuff in comics. They decided to give him what could, again, in like a crazy person's mind, be considered an actual motivation. Like, he's like, the resources in our universe are finite. There's no way that life can survive if I don't kill half of the world. Like,
because there's just not enough for how much everyone's populating, because when nations aren't at war, there's no balance. And he sees as bringing balance to everything, balance to the universe. And
randomly kill half of everyone.
Randomly,
that will save everything.
I love that they make him say, like, it's random. Rich, poor, powerful, weak. Doesn't matter. It's random.
Yeah, and then he shows you, he's just, like, when he's talking to Gamora, he's just like, I killed half of your planet. And she's like, yeah, because you're a genocidal fucking idiot. You're a madman.
You're a psychopath.
He was like, but no one's poor or hungry on your planet anymore because of what I did. Because of what I did, your world was saved.
Yeah.
And now everybody who's there lives prosperously and everything's great now. Like, you yourself were starving in the filth, like, when I found you. So, like, I don't understand why you don't see that. And the thing is that he's not necessarily wrong, but it's like, A, no one's allowed to make that decision. One. And two, doing what he was doing delays an inevitable. Like, the entropy of the universe can't be slowed. Like, can only be slowed, it can't be solved. So it's like, you can't just solve the fact that the universe is going to run out of resources eventually by killing half of everything. You can't do that. So, yeah, I thought that was a much better writing choice, that they went with that motivation instead of him trying to bang death.
And he's flawed, and he's got flawed logic.
Yep.
And he's, they show him that there is a soft side to him, because he takes these kids that have potential and he raises them to be the strongest warriors of the universe. Like, there is a guy who can work with magic who competes with Doctor Strange and his magical ability. And it's all probably these kids that were in starving countries that had potential.
The telekinesis guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy was crazy.
And Thanos had collected a family, so it wasn't just Nebula and Gamora, but there's just a whole slew of them. And it was nice to see, the differences between the ones that rebelled and the ones that stayed loyal. And then you kind of get an idea of where their ethics are standing. So, when they land on Earth, there's no time to waste. It's, They
just immediately get straight to it.
That's what I want.
So cool.
We grab this. That's it.
Yeah. And I also thought it was really interesting how they continued to kind of play that out in terms of making Thanos not necessarily a sympathetic villain, but at least an understandable one when he's fighting Tony. And then he stabs him at that one point, and then he just sits him down on a rock, and he's just like, look, think of it this way. Half of humanity will survive. And I hope they remember you. Because he has this respect for Tony. And he's just like, I know you because I too am burdened with knowledge. Like, he kind of like understands him. And I also really, really, really loved how they showed you the full breadth of a lot of the character's strengths. Yeah. Like, Tony, for a very short period of time, stood toe-to-toe with Thanos, just with the tech that he had. And
the update to the suit, every time they update it, it's just brilliant. Because, again, things they show in other movies, that he hoarded all of the alien tech that was from Thanos' army that Loki brought. And all that alien tech that he's been researching all those years and studying with his millions of dollars he spent on advancing just the general Earth presence to defend itself, but also just to generate his own armor to be the strongest in the fucking universe.
Yeah.
Of all of Earth. He's
So
got the
good.
strongest tech. Then the way it like crawled down his arms, and the way
nanotech
like
and everything.
that was so cool.
Yeah, that he was just, and actually somebody had asked me a few days ago on this, like, you know, would you ever consider having your new suit of armor be very much like how Venom's suit is, that it can like come out and take different shapes and do different things like that and then disappear, but they're like, but instead of making it a living thing, would you think of having it be nanotech? And I got to see that in action.
Yeah.
And I'm still not going to necessarily go with it because, I mean, it's been done and I've got other plans, but...
And I like how the nanotech built, because they built it in like blocks, and it was very like...
Yeah.
In blocks, where like Venom's suit's kind of like amorphous.
It's amorphous and
it's like
whatnot.
natural looking, and it's like slime. Where the nanotech looks like it's a robot building itself.
And it forms different complex structures, like when he first puts
it's like
it
watching
on,
incredibly fast,
and it happens, and then
3D
like
printing,
those,
but with nanites.
Yeah, those four other like things came out of his back, and then he like shot the huge beam at that one guy, and it was just like, and then those things just meld back into the suit, or he makes like one big cannon, or he makes like a big thing on his foot, and he like stamps down Thanos' glove, and was like using stuff, or he made like a sword at one point. Like there's all these different weapons that he doesn't have to like hide in his suit anymore. The nanites physically construct that technology.
Build them in seconds.
Yeah, it's just boom, it's there and it's gone. And I was like, that's so cool. That's so cool. Ah. And then Doctor Strange, like
his power, like they really do show him with his power is just like amped up.
He and then again, like when Tony gets like knocked over, he steps in and goes toe-to-toe with Thanos for like a little bit. He manages to hold off against him because he's the Sorcerer Supreme and he's insanely powerful. Like, a lot of people complain that he didn't use the Time Stone to like stop Thanos, and then
they showed a lot of scenes where
him,
he's being stopped from casting the spell.
Yeah.
Because like basically to use the Time Stone is like, you know, doing your symbolic gestures, and he kept getting stopped before he could actually finish the symbols and lock in his
power. his spells. And actually, yeah, no, it's during that first fight with the telekinesis guy and the dude with the huge hammer. I don't remember their names.
Spell looks like.
Yeah, he's starting to use the stone, and every time he tries, they stop him because it takes time for him to do that. So he just
and they show
in
Doctor Strange movie that if there's someone that knows the same spell casting as this Sorcerer Supreme, they can beat him.
Yeah,
because of the Ancient One and how her greatest apprentice is. That's how she was able to be defeated. He knew the same magic she did and how to counter.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about being the strongest, it was knowing how to counter your enemy.
And someone could have been like, oh, well, why didn't he use the stone to stop him? And it's like, if he took the stone out and tried to use it to, like, freeze Thanos, because it shows you in the Doctor Strange movie that he's able to, like, manipulate time and remove people from the time stream while he's manipulating it. But it takes him time to start casting that stuff.
Also, wouldn't someone with the Reality Stone be able to warp reality enough to mess with time?
In a sense, possibly, yeah.
Like, because that's the whole point of having the Reality Stone.
Yeah.
He manipulates time, then reality gets morphed. They could really fuck up, actually. They could cause a black hole. And that might be why he didn't use it. It just caused a black hole.
That was another thing, is that if let's say he did succeed and stopped Thanos and they got the glove off his hand while he was frozen and they did some other things, like, there was a possibility that he could have caused some kind of massive, like, universe-shattering paradox. Yeah. So that stone is very dangerous and was
they show that the items made in the Forge of the Fallen Star, that those items need to be handled by some sort of, like, godly being, such as an Asgardian, or
put on the glove.
But to use the glove, because not anybody can use Mjolnir.
True.
Not anybody can probably use that axe that was just made.
Stormbreaker.
And probably not everyone can use the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Maybe Thor could use it, but could you imagine if someone like Tony tried to put it on?
Oh yeah, no, he'd destroy him because he's just a regular friggin' dude. And they even explain that the only reason Star-Lord survived holding one of the stones
was because he was half-blooded to a god.
Yeah, he was like a half-god, and he was also joining hands with a bunch of other people to sort of spread it out a little bit.
Like, Star-Lord couldn't handle one. There's no way he could handle all of them, even with the Infinity Gauntlet.
And the Infinity Gauntlet was designed so that Thanos could hold all 6 of them without it killing him.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so the creation of Stormbreaker I thought was great.
Yeah,
a lot of people were on about that, because when Thor lost his hammer, they were like, oh, it was just training wheels for him. It was something that it could focus his power so that he could learn to use his powers on his own, because he's a very powerful individual by himself as King of Asgard. Has all crazy lightning powers. You see that in Thor Ragnarok. Stormbreaker, though, that they mention, because when Thor loses his hammer, he's not worthy, the hammer gets passed on to somebody else in the comics, and then he gets Stormbreaker as a thing, and someone was like, what if he goes to the crazy Dwarven Forge, though, and gets Stormbreaker made? That's exactly what happens, but then they hype it up a little bit and say, Stormbreaker was a king's weapon. It's not just a tool that it was supposed to use to focus his powers, it is designed to amplify them.
Yeah.
Considerably. So much so that the Stormbreaker itself could summon the Bifrost without the need of that huge rainbow bridge and the big spinny thing that they had in Asgard. Like, he could just do it himself with this one hammer.
Hold on. Okay, I'm on Earth.
Yeah, he could just go anywhere now with this crazy hammer. That's actually
technically exactly what he did once he got it.
Yeah. And the process of creating it, like, knocked him right out, and then they're like, he needs the hammer because it will restore him, like, in a way, and then Groot, like, makes the handle with his arm, which I thought was the dopest thing.
That's so cute.
And then, like, you see his fingers tickling when they, like, put the hammer down next to him, like, his hands kind of move a little bit, and then it's just, like, the beam, and he leans up, and it's so cool! Oh, and people in the theaters were going nuts, and I was going nuts with them.
Squealing, cheering.
Because he shows up and just cleans the dudes off the ground screaming, bring me Thanos. And then Thanos shows up, all 6 gems on his glove, shoots a beam at Thor, and Thor goes, nope, and cuts him in the chest with his axe. Like, fully just ignores his attack. Yeah. Like, sells it right into him.
We know Thor is strong enough to take on Thanos.
Yeah.
But he fucked up because Thanos was still able to win the day and get out of there.
Well, and he tells him, like, you should have gone for the head. And if he had brought his axe down and caught him in the face with it, then day saved. Like, right there, that'd have been the end of it. But he caught him in the chest so that he could look him in the face and said, I told you I'd kill you for this. But it was just that little bit of hubris.
That little ego. That little bit of, I need to tell him.
That tiny bit of ego ruined it.
One hit. One hit. Fucked it up.
I've been there, though.
Yeah.
I've been in situations like that where you're like, oh, but I just want that little, I just want the moment where I can rub it in their face, and it's like,
Thor really wanted it because of what he did to his brother.
Yep.
What he did to Loki, what he did to everybody, his people.
Yeah. Which was
you can
nuts.
See, and it's just, it's wonderful because you're just looking at a guy who won before Thor even showed up because he planted the seeds in his head that he weakened Thor with his words. Mm-hmm. That Thor would fall into his plan because he manipulated him. Yeah. And it's brilliant because it just shows that you have a smarter villain because he manipulated everybody or he just killed everybody. And everything went the way he wanted to. Like, he manipulated Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Like, it's all Star-Lord's fault.
Oh, God. And then, Star-Lord completely lousing it up because he just could not keep it under a lid for 10 more seconds. They were so close to getting the goddamn glove off of him. But he goofed it up, and I thought it was really weird that people like Tony Stark and Doctor Strange did not immediately rub that shit in his face. Not that they had a chance to, really.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
This is your fault.
He had one thing. Well, he friggin' died at the end of the thing anyway, so, like, a part of me is just like, well, that's what you fucking
They killed so many heroes.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's just down to the basic Avengers now.
I know.
Like, the core Avengers.
Captain America, Thor,
Black Widow, and Iron Man.
There's still,
Hawkeye's out there somewhere, but you don't even see him in this movie. You don't even see him. Like, he's just off the grid.
Tony's not alone on that planet. He's with somebody.
He's got a handful of people. I know that both Star-Lord and
Mantis, Drax, and Star-Lord got evaporated, and Doctor Strange.
And Doctor Strange, and
Peter Parker.
And Peter Parker, so
who the fuck is out there with them? Is it just Rocket Raccoon?
No, Rocket's with Thor. Rocket was with Thor at the Forge, with Groot.
I know, but I don't think Rocket went to Earth. Oh, wait, no, Rocket did go to Earth.
Yeah, Rocket went to Earth. Oh, man, and Bucky's, like, shooting his machine gun and holding, like, Rocket at the same time as he's, like, spinning. That was dope. But, yeah, no, and then when Groot vanished and stuff like that, I think Tony might be on that planet by himself.
Alone on the planet by himself. I think he's alone.
That sucks if that's the case. Oh,
shit.
yeah, because everybody friggin' dissolved out there, and it's just him. But that was the thing. That's what Tony's his greatest fear is that he will be the one to survive. And they bring that up not only in the first Avengers movie, but also in Age of Ultron.
When they show the flash forward where they see just the wreck of
wreck of everything, and then Nick Fury brings that up to him. He's just like, you're not afraid to die. You're afraid to be the only one who survives. And he's just like, yeah, like I'm trying
really
to save the
interesting to
world.
Pick back up
but
where Tony is right now by himself on that planet.
oh god, I can't wait to see how that plays out.
That's going to be interesting. The other big interesting one is the fact that just everybody's like gone, and no one knows where Thanos is. No one knows what to do, because Earth is now just imploding on itself because half the population is gone.
Yeah.
Like you watch like a helicopter go down because it's random, like trains and buildings and, you know, construction people and people like with their fingers on triggers and stuff like that are just going to drop dead. So the whole world is just going to drop into chaos.
We'll see how that plays out.
So how do you go against Thanos when your own planet is in fucking chaotic wreck right now?
Half the universe is gone, so that's the Guardians of the Galaxy are pretty much Tostitos right there.
Like we have they said like Warlock's not going to show up in Infinity Wars.
That was the thing that I was curious about.
They lie about a lot of things, though.
Adam Warlock didn't show up. He played a huge part in the original, like the Golden Age Infinity Wars comics that came out. Adam Warlock was the one that reset the universe. At least from what I remember through the bits and pieces that I know, that like after Thanos was defeated because Spider-Man talked him into fighting Wolverine 1v1 without the glove, and the first thing Wolverine did was cut his fucking arm off. Adam Warlock put on the glove, reset the universe, because he was Adam Warlock, he's like a super being, and then gave the Infinity Stones away to all of the people that he knew wouldn't use them. So he gave the Mind Gem to Professor Xavier, because Professor Xavier's already the universe's most powerful psychic, and he was like, you'll never use this.
I don't need it.
Here. And then the Reality Stone he gave to Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four, because he's like, you already make machines that go through all these different realities anyways. You'll never use this. Here. And he's giving all the stones to people that will never ever use them, but will keep them safe. And then he just pieces out, and I was like, they introduce Adam Warlock, but they didn't bring him into Infinity Wars. I'm curious if he'll show up in the second half.
Technically, we're supposed to be getting another Guardians of the Galaxy. So, now we have the entire cast, except for Rocket Raccoon, dead. Mm-hmm. Because everybody...
Everyone's gone.
Yeah, Gamora, Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, Groot. Gone.
It's just Rocket.
That's it.
It's just Rocket.
And isn't that like it's the opposite of what happened to Yondu? The complete opposite of what happened to Yondu.
Yeah.
Yondu went down before his team. Rocket's the only one surviving of his team. So imagine, like, I think if we're gonna get another Guardians of the Galaxy, we might have something revolving around Rocket, trying to recruit the galaxy's greatest like people to come and fight this thing.
That's possible.
Or we're just going to have a very interesting character story about how Rocket Raccoon is just going to implode inside because he's alone. He's alone.
That was the thing, is that I'm like...
Earth.
There are a lot of more Marvel movies that have been confirmed. Like, there's another Doctor Strange has been confirmed. Another Spider-Man, another Black Panther, and a bunch of other films like that have been slated. But the next Infinity War needs to happen before those movies come out.
Yep.
It's because, like,
we're get
a lot of
Doctor
this...
Strange.
A lot of these characters who have died are obviously going to be brought back so that they can continue making films with them.
Are they going to bring back everybody and just kind of, like, do a reset?
That was the
are
thing.
they going to keep a couple people gone?
Like,
is there going to be a reason why Doctor Strange can come back? Because maybe he can't be blinked out of existence? Because he's the Sorcerer Supreme.
Perhaps. It's possible, but I'm not sure how they're going to play that out, if they're going to go like, oh, well, everyone can be brought back, or
Spider-Man comics is...
maybe only the ones that died when he snapped his fingers.
Yeah.
Only those ones. But everyone who died up to that point, they have to all stay dead, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see how it plays out.
In one of the Spider-Man comics, he makes I know it's one of the worst ones, but he makes a deal with the devil. But, like, is there some alternate being that might get involved? Because it's all like, oh, shit's going on. This is when I come in and I prey upon people who are weak.
Yeah.
Maybe that something happens with Tony up on this planet in the middle of nowhere. Does some urethral being come out and be like, hey, let me make a deal with you?
Yeah, like, or something. Here's the thing. They keep doing stuff that hasn't that they've never done in the comics. Or at least there's one thing that they did in this movie that, as far as I can recall, and as far as a lot of other people I've been talking to can recall, has never happened, and that is the Hulk refused to change.
Yeah.
That Bruce Banner called on the Hulk to fight something, and the Hulk said no. Twice. And that's something that, A, I'm interested in seeing how that plays out, and B, they've never done that, so far as we can tell, so they're off script at least on some things. And I want to see where that goes, per se. Like, how are they gonna play that out? How is that gonna go? Because then that means that the solution they have to this, when they do the second Infinity Wars movie, isn't going to be, per se, like, it's possibly going to be completely fresh. Like, it might not be something that's been done already, or it might be a different twist on something that's been done. Also, the Ant-Man movie is coming out soon.
Oh my god, I'm so excited for Ant-Man versus and the Wasp.
Ant-Man and the Wasp is coming out, but it's definitely coming out before the next Infinity Wars.
Yeah, maybe.
So, how's that going to work?
How's that going to work?
Some folks are saying that this movie is going to take place before Infinity Wars happens, like canonically, and then just like at the end of the movie or during the credits, suddenly people start dying. Because half the world has disappeared, or this could take place in the ensuing chaos that happens after half the world's been killed.
I would prefer that.
Yeah.
I would love that. My money's betting on it's going to be the other way around, but I would prefer it if it was about the aftermath and showing how, you know, maybe some of our smaller heroes get to shine. Like Jessica Jones and stuff like that.
It's possible.
Because it's in their universe too.
Which is super crazy.
Well, next season of like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, like with this, like I wonder if they get affected.
Yeah, like that would actually be interesting to see another season of those shows, to see how like they're dealing with it on street level. Yeah, because it's all street level stuff now, right? So what's happening there? Well,
yeah, because once the hierarchy falls, it's just the street level crime just explodes.
You can see how everyone's reacting to this on like the Avengers level, where it's all global and intergalactic combat, but then it's like on the day-to-day down on street level where Jessica Jones and Daredevil are like, what's happening down there?
A bunch of guards at the prison just...
Yeah.
What happens to all the prisoners?
And and then they could show you like what the general populace's reaction to all of this is.
That big prison that's got a bunch of baddies in it.
And all of them, like, maybe half the people in prison are now dead as well. And, like, half the guards have disappeared, and half of everything else is gone. And some people are probably going to be like, well, good, because, you know, now we're not starving anymore, and there's lots of jobs, and the economy is going to pick up. Or a lot of other people, obviously, are like, bad. People I cared about died. This is awful. Like, it might sort of cascade into seeing... Like, it would be interesting, at the very least, to see what that's like on ground level in the pedestrian reactions, right?
So it looks like we've been chatting for a long time.
We have. And I think I covered, like, all the big things that I wanted to discuss. Oh, no, wait. It was at the very end, in the last scene, I did notice, because I was paying very specific attention, when he was in the little universe thing talking to the little version of Gamora, and she asked him, like, you know, so, are you done? What did you have to sacrifice? And he said, everything. I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if he sat in the chair, and then he disappeared? Because... he was like, no, 50% at random, but they need someone to fight in the next movie. Yeah. But when he did sit down, he had the glove on. It was just really fucked up. Because when he snapped his fingers and disappeared...
It looked like everything was, like, done.
Oh, yeah, his whole arm was completely jacked. But the glove was super fucked up. Like, it's still in one piece, but it is, like, wrecked. Now that he's used it, and he sits down... and he's just sitting there, like, watching the world go out, and I was like, okay, so he still has it. Because in my head, I was like, he doesn't have it when he's in this weird thing. This like, other dimensional space.
Well, that's almost like he just kind of, like, passed through the Soul Stone, and then came back.
Ended up on the other side of it, and I'm like, he doesn't have it when he's there, but even if he's dead, they need the glove to retcon the deaths. They don't have anything else that they can put... in the glove into in order to
one
use the
dwarf that's left is the one that's...
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, the one dwarf, they did show the mold for the glove. They did. So they could make another one. It's still at the forge. Like, the design and the mold for the glove still exists. But the glove that Thanos is wearing got super jacked. And he's still wearing it, but it's, like, mega fucked up now. Because he just killed half the universe. But it's like, if he went to restore half the universe, would that put more strain on the stones? Would they, if they did that in the second movie, if he was like, okay, fine, snap, everything's back to the way it was, everyone's brought back to life, and then the stones crumble. So now death has consequence in the universe again. because then the story of the Infinity Stones is brought to a close at that point. Because the first Avengers movie is when they started that story with the Tesseract. And then, or even you could say it was with the Thor movie, because the Tesseract was brought up in the Thor movie.
It could be the whole thing about trying to go find them to put them in a safe place, or to get them back, because I remember seeing the gauntlet being all fucked up. I don't remember seeing the stones. Like, they weren't glowing. It just looked fucked up. Yeah,
the stones could also be destroyed, which they show us as well in this movie, and I think that's not an accident that they show us that the stones themselves can be destroyed. So even if, let's say, the gauntlet is still fully intact and the gems are still there and they use it to reverse the thing, that all the stones would then crumble and disappear, bringing Consequence back to death in the universe and allowing them to start a new story going forward that no longer involves the Infinity Stones, because all of the movies leading up to this point, from, let's say, Thor till now, have tangentially involved the Infinity Stones. Some of them even being entirely about them, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. And Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, The Dark World, like, there's a lot of the films, Captain America, that are exactly about those. Even the second Avengers movie, the Age of Ultron, was about the Mind Stone. Like, it was all right on there. So yeah, I'm super, like, all it does for me is just, I'm like, I want more.
I want more, yeah.
Like,
I'm with you there. I want another movie, want another movie now. I really want that Captain Marvel movie. She's hot, she looks cool, I love her outfit. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for Captain Marvel.
Definitely down for Captain Marvel.
It would be interesting, I don't know when the next Captain Marvel movie is supposed to come out, but it would be interesting if they released a Captain Marvel film before the next Infinity Wars to introduce her as a character. Because the pager got pressed, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what if they then did a film of her
story of,
introducing her up to that point
an
and
origin
then a little
story.
after?
Like, even Spider-Man got a bit of an origin story. They may not have shown a story from the beginning, but they show it as an interesting point.
They show you what you need to know.
I would like to see an origin story that maybe doesn't have to show us all her baby steps in flashback. Like, can we just not have this badass woman come in and be like, I'm a motherfucking badass, and then just be that?
Yeah, like, I think that if they did...
And give her character.
A Captain Marvel movie before the next Infinity Wars, that it would be, like, a section of it would be showing before the events of Infinity War, and then a section of it after. Like, when the pager gets pressed and half of everyone dies. And then, yeah, that's your climax, and then she has to get to the rest of it, and then it cliffhangers leading into the next movie, which I think is going to be dope. Dope AF. I actually really like Captain Marvel as a character, because she's just great.
I actually don't know much about her. I know, it's a sin.
There's a lot of different ways that people have been telling the story. One of which was that she gets infused with technology and energy from the Kree, which are a race of aliens.
No, I know the Kree.
Which they almost haven't talked about, like, almost at all. With the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Because the villain from Guardians of the Galaxy was a Kree fanatic.
It was a Kree fanatic.
They never showed us the homeworld of the Kree.
Yeah, in the comics and in the series, the Kree have largely been these, like, sort of fin-eared, goblin-y looking people. And they can transform and take on the shapes of others, and they had been, like, infiltrating the world for a really long period of time. But in the MCU, it appears as though they're, like, blue-skinned, and they're very, like, a warring people, and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't know if they're gonna get into, like,
well, they said in the Guardians of the Galaxy
storyline going
They said
forward.
in the Guardians of the Galaxy that there was the fanatics of the Kree that were very war hungry, but there was also the elevated,
the rest of the
Kree
that aren't involved,
that we didn't see. So who knows how advanced and how civilized their society is? Because like, you can represent in real world that we still have, we have the advanced, and then we have the not so advanced. And that's kind of how the aliens can work too. Yeah,
and, like, in terms of her power set, she's basically just like a Super Saiyan. Like, she flies around and shoots beams out of her hands, and has, like, super strength and super durability and super speed, which I thought was just dope. She's just cool, and I think she was military. I'm not sure. I don't know too much about it, but obviously I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research. If
I think I got some comics to read.
So, damn, man. That movie gave me absolutely everything I asked for and more.
Yeah. I left a little dead inside, but also really excited for the next movie.
That's the thing. I'm like, I know this is Marvel. I know that they're not going to leave these characters dead. And it's every telling of Infinity War,
you leave,
it gets retconned.
And there's a little... Oh.
Yeah, no, I was sad during a lot of it, but, like, it was always in the back of my mind that, like, every Infinity War, they bring back everybody.
Fine.
So
it's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. Just, yeah. keep breathing and get to the next bit is always, like, what's in the back of my head here. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, they're just going to retcon it and that's not going to matter and stuff. I'm like, yes, but I want to see how that plays out.
We'll see if they retcon it in a way to piss us off or retcon it in a way that is interesting, fresh and new. That's really what it is.
And also, like, even if they do just snap their fingers and, oh, everybody's back alive and everything's fine and the sun rises and everything's, like, you know, just orange juice and pancakes, everything's great. Like, yeah, and everyone's happy. I want to see how the characters react to that. Because that's what interests me. Like, how will they tell this part of the story? How will that play out? I want to see it play out. So, like, I'm excited. Like, people
I'm so fascinated with things that happen after big traumatic events like that. Like, you know, after the meteorite fell on Sokovia and how Sokovia fell, like, when Civil War touched on the destruction, I'm just like, okay, like, I kind of want to see more.
Age of Ultron was pretty much what caused the Civil War.
Yeah.
Was just all of that.
I know Age of Ultron's not everyone's favorite, but I think it's one. I love that movie.
I love it so much.
Love that movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it gives us some really great insights on how the world functions. Sets up Civil War really nicely.
Who is it that voices Ultron? David Hayter? David Spade? I can't remember.
Not David Spade, but probably David Hayter or something like that. But no, he does such a good job. Because at first, like, you hear him and it's, like, very, like, kind of robotic, and then it kind of turns in that suave tone that just is like,
oh, he's
I
so
know more than you because I'm better. And it's the huge difference between Vision and Ultron, being that, you know, Vision sees, I know, but I'm not better, I just support. And then Ultron, who's like, I know more, and I'm better than you, and I know more than you, and you need to listen to me because I know what you need.
Yeah. Ultron.
This is why I don't like it when they kill off the villains, because I would love to see Thanos and Ultron in a room together.
James Spader, that was it.
James Spader.
It was James Spader. And I'm bad with names, but I want to see, like, on occasion, I'll just... Because I have, like, a YouTube video that's just a collection of all of his lines throughout the entire movie, and I just sit down and I listen to it, because I could listen to him for days. I could fall asleep listening to James Spader talking about stuff from with the like, robotic voice thing, and I'm just like, it's so good. And it was...
When he's talking down to Scarlet Witch,
all of it. All of it was just so good. And I was
monologues like, he the best.
He didn't have one line that I don't just juice. Like, every time I listen to it, just suck all the fucking juice out of it. It's so good.
Dripping with charisma.
Oh, he does! He just drips with charisma, and he looks like a potato sack, but he sounds like a god, and it just... I'm conflicted.
Okay, books that we need recorded, anything about... Actually, no, just take the Age of Ultron comic and then just narrate it in Ultron's voice.
And yeah, just with James Spader.
That should just do all of them.
And it was just...
That'd be great.
It was also one of my favorite, like, Avengers films because they'd already established the characters and their relationships, and so they're kind of building on that relationship already.
Yeah, and it's not like having to rehash, like, oh, I'm mad at you, or oh, like, we're your friends. It's like...
They've already come together as friends.
When Banner and Black Widow get into the same room, it's like, oh yeah, acknowledge there's a thing, but we're not going to discuss it right now, we have shit to do.
Yeah, and... It wasn't about, like, everybody fighting a thing that was aggressing towards them so much as it was the argument of Tony saying, like, okay, but we're not enough, and we'll never be enough. There's going to be something always bigger and badder and worse, and I need to build something that's bigger and badder and worse than us to defend the planet. And is why he's trying to develop Ultron, so it created that, like, that discussion that I thought was really good, that it was just, there isn't a point where Tony's not gonna go there to try and save everyone. And at least I find that very sympathetic. Like, I was very agreeable, obviously, to that thought process, that it's like, you want people to maintain their agency to a point in society, but also, friggin' aliens invaded, and he ended up in space driving a nuke at an alien army in space through a portal above New York. Like, that damaged him as a person. You can see it on his face, like in every movie, just the slow degrade of his psychological state as he just desperately tries to keep things together.
Yeah, and it was nice to kind of see Captain America just stand there and be like, oh, I lost.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite scene, because I've never been the biggest Captain America fan. I think he has fucked up as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's great character, and I love him, and I love seeing him fight and stuff like that, but it was just really satisfying to see him stand there and, like, he lost.
Yeah.
And he has nothing to blame but himself.
Yeah. He's just sitting there just holding Vision's body in his hands, and he's just like, oh God, like, we lost.
We lost.
And he's always of the mind that it's like, you know what, we'll lose this one, we'll lose the battle, but we're gonna win the war. And he's always won the war in his head. He's never been on the permanently losing side.
And now that he's lost, that there is the chance to win the war, but...
this is just really almost too much for him.
Yeah.
And he's grappling that, and you just see that hit him in the face.
He watched his best friend Bucky just turn to dust. He watched the king of Wakanda, Black Panther himself, turn to dust.
Yeah, just vanish.
And it's like, oh God, like, what? All he wanted to do was protect people, keep people safe. Everything he did was to protect the people. You know, if we blew up a hotel building, it was to protect the people in the big scheme of things.
In the bigger picture.
This is the bigger picture.
Yeah, and it was just like...
half the planet.
Everything we did after everything that happened, it wasn't enough. They failed still in the end, and that was just the end of it. And I was just like, oh my God, like just seeing that, and then seeing Tony just like... It's almost like sadness wasn't even a thing he could do anymore. That he was just... That he can't experience that because he's lost so much, and then now he's also lost Peter, and he's just sitting there alone on this planet.
He
just
feels guilty,
devastated.
guilty.
And it was his greatest fear come to pass. It is, I was not good enough to defend everyone, and in the end I lost. And that's it. And I am so curious if Pepper survived.
Ooh.
Because she was back on Earth begging him not to go.
Yep.
On another one of his adventures to save the world.
If Aunt May survived, he's got to face that.
Yeah.
Because Aunt May knows that Peter is Spider-Man.
Like, I want to see how this plays out. Even
but
if
first,
it's
Tony's got to get back to Earth.
Yeah, I want to see how this goes. I imagine Thor could just go pick him up because he's got the hammer now.
But does he even know he's alive?
Or where he is, because he doesn't have Heimdall anymore. Heimdall's eyes can see everyone and know where everything is, but like... now that he has the hammer and can use the Bifrost, does he have that ability?
What if it's Rocket goes and follows trackers on something that they had, and he ends up finding Tony, and he's like, "What happened to my friends?" Then Tony's got to tell Rocket
their ship
gone.
Is like the Avengers, or not the Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Their ship is still there. So
and Rocket probably has some way of tracking it.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be the one like, yo, my buddies are here, we gotta go get them.
That's rough.
And then showing up and they're all gone. Because when he left them, they were all fine.
Yeah.
Gamora, Drax, Mantis, and Star-Lord, they were fine.
Yeah.
Because he left with Thor, and they went to nowhere, and it was nowhere where things,
took an ugly turn.
Gamora got taken.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's rough.
That's gonna be rough.
Man, that's rough. So I think we've gone on for long enough.
Yes.
We've been on for a while.
Definitely pleasure going on about this with you.
And I want to keep going, but it's just one of those like I can't like we could talk about this all day, but I feel like we want to put like a pin in it, just be like, oh, okay. So. Such a good movie, though.
Well, we can always ask if these guys are going to Con Bravo and they want to do a discussion panel with you.
Yeah, like if you guys...
us. Like, if you want to see Dr. Terawatt and Zombie Cat 89 and have a conversation with you at Con Bravo, like, request it.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. And also, like, try to keep it... I mean, I don't know, because there's I'm going to put it in the title of this video that there's going to be, like, Avengers of spoilers and stuff like that. Avengers of spoilers.
Be a friend. Don't spoil it for people.
Don't spoil it for people, but the comments, definitely talk about it. Talk about spoilers. Talk about stuff that you love and everything like that, because if there's going to be spoilers in the video and there's spoilers in the title, there's going to be spoilers in the comments, and I'm not going to let people get mad at me about that. So, yeah. So anyways, thank you, everyone, for coming out with us and for being with us here for V.E.D.A. I'm not in the hospital or dying for once, and I think that that's great. At the end of V.E.D.A, I'm not like crumbling and falling apart like I have been every year. I survived, and I'm considerably more healthy than I was when I started. Oh, that thing keeps going to sleep. So thank you everybody for coming out, joining us for this year's V.E.D.A. For those of you who've been with us since the beginning all the way till now, thank you for following us through all of this. It's been amazing. And thank you, Michelle, for coming out and visiting with us and ranting and nerding out like crazy.
Thank you for having me. It's always nice to just talk to people about stuff that I love.
It is super great. Yeah. Just geeking out on our last day.
Such nerds.
So, in terms of our next content that we're coming up, I'm going to be releasing some content just talking about the suit as I'm building the new Mechanolith armor, and you guys are going to see some really cool images. I was actually showing some of that to Michelle before we got sat down and started doing this, so we're very excited about that. And I'm going to be keeping everything sort of more up to date as best I can. We're still going to be doing live streams, judging by the time. I'm not going to be able to do one tonight, but it's Monday. We're not doing Mondays anymore anyways, just Tuesday to Friday, 7 to 10. So until next time, my brave citizens, I'm Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terawatt. This is our Layer 3.0. This is Zombie Kid 89.
Have a good night.
And we will see you on the war front. End of line.